RMS OLYMPIC's military service, or should I say HMT, Hired Military Transport 2810. On April 14th of 1912, Captain Herbert James Haddock was in command of the RMS OLYMPIC. She was returning from New York and was more than halfway back to England when she received a distress call from her sister ship, the RMS Titanic. Captain Haddock would immediately alter course to assist the Titanic and order full speed ahead. The Olympic would later get a message from Captain Rostron of the Carpathia informing them that all boats had been accounted for and their presence was not needed and may actually upset the passengers. Upon hearing this, Olympic would then alter the course and return on their heading back to England. Now, the reason I bring up the Titanic disaster is because the Olympic would be upgraded after the inquiry held about Titanic's loss. On October 9th of 1912, the RMS Olympic would be pulled from service and returned to Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast for an upgrade. Olympic would now carry 64 lifeboats, which was quite an increase from a previous number of 20. New davits would be installed and able to lower each boat individually over the side of the ship at any given time. A double hull would also be added, as well as raising up of the watertight bulkheads all the way up to B-deck. The addition of bulkheads would increase the number of watertight compartments to 17. Now, Olympic had many improvements during this refit. However, I'm only going to focus on the safety issues right now. She would return to service under the command of Captain Herbert James Haddock. But after the start of World War I, the Olympic would be painted gray. Her lighting would be reduced significantly to avoid detection. Her home ports would also switch from Southampton to Liverpool to Gaslout. Olympic would also assist in the rescue of personnel for the HMS Audacious. The Audacious had struck a mine off Tory Island. Olympic would save over 250 men. She also had an attempt to save the sinking ship as well by pairing with the HMS Fury using cables. However, the ship would ultimately sink. By this time, the dangers of German U-boats and the lowering of passenger totals would prompt White Star to take the RMS Olympic out of service and wait until the end of the war. But in May of 1915, the RMS Olympic would be requisitioned by the Royal Navy to be used as a transport ship. At the time, her sister, the RMS Britannic, was nearing completion and requisitioned as a hospital ship. Olympic would then be refitted as a troop transport ship. She would be given 4.7-inch guns and had the capacity to transport up to 6,000 troops. Upon completion of her military upgrade, on September 24, 1915, she would be redesignated as the HMT, or Hired Military Transport 2810. Her new captain would be Bertram Fox Hayes. Her first mission would be to transport 6,000 soldiers to Maduros, Greece, for the Gallipoli campaign. She would later rescue 34 survivors from the French vessel Provincia that was sunk by a German U-boat off Cape Matapan. Later, from 1916 to 1970, the HMT-2810 would be used to transport troops from Halifax, Nova Scotia to England. And later in the year 1917, she would be refitted with 6-inch guns. She would also get her first Dazzle camouflage paint job. By painting the ship this way, it would be more difficult for the German U-boats to distinguish her speed or course. The colors used would be brown, dark blue, light blue, as well as bright white. After the United States declared war on Germany, the HMT-2810 would also transport U.S. troops to Britain as well. Later, on May 12th of 1918, HMT-2810 would sight a German U-boat while heading to France. The German U-boat would later be identified as U-103. After firing on the U-boat, she would actually be able to ram it later and sink it. Survivors were not picked up by the HMT-2810 as she would resume her course for France. The German survivors would be picked up later by the USS Davis, and it would later be known that the U-boat intended to sink the HMT-2810 but had difficulty in the stern torpedo tubes. This incident would damage the HMT-2810 by denting the hull plates. American soldiers would later add a plaque to the lounge area that read the following. This tablet, presented by the 59th Regiment United States Infantry, commemorates the sinking of the German submarine U-103 by the Olympic on May 12, 1918. This occurred in latitude 49 degrees 16 minutes north by longitude 4 degrees 51 minutes west on the voyage from New York to Southampton with American troops. During her time in service, HMT-2810 carried approximately 201,000 troops, as well as other personnel. She would consume over 347,000 tons of coal and would travel well over 180,000 miles. After her service, she would become known as Old Reliable. She would return to Belfast for her restoration and refit as a passenger liner. It would also later be discovered that she had sustained damage below her waterline by a German torpedo that failed to explode. Her engines would be updated to burn oil, replacing the coal. In doing so, the demand for the crew in that area went from 350 workers down to 60. After her refit, RMS Olympic's weight would increase to 46,439 tons. She would resume her career in 1920 and stay in service until the 1930s.